My parents called my startup a waste for 8 years, but Mom dropped her serving tray in shock seeing me win an award for my billion-dollar tech empire. The email from my mother arrived on a Wednesday morning at 6:47 a.m. Subject: reality check. Marcus, your father and I have been patient for 8 years, she wrote. 8 years of watching you waste your Stanford education on this startup fantasy. Your sister Amanda has a real job, benefits, stability, and a 401k. She just bought a house. What do you have? An apartment you share with 2 roommates and a business that hasn't made a profit. It's time to grow up. Dad knows someone at Cisco. They're hiring at $140,000 starting. Please, for once in your life, make a smart decision. Mom, I muttered, read it twice, deleted it, and went back to work. I had stopped defending myself 3 years ago. I stopped trying to explain what data stream AI was building. I stopped attending family dinners where every conversation ended with concerned looks and helpful suggestions about real careers. My phone buzzed. It was my older sister. Did you see Mom's email? She asked. Yeah, I said. She means well, Marcus. She's just worried. I know, I replied. Are you doing okay financially? Amanda asked. I looked around my office on the 19th floor in downtown San Francisco, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Bay Bridge. Our company logo was etched in glass by the elevator. We had 127 employees, and our revenue last quarter was $67 million. I'm doing fine, I said, because if you need money, she trailed off. I don't need money, Amanda. Hey, just checking. Love you. Love you too, I said. I hung up and stared at my laptop. The Salesforce tower gleamed in the morning sun. My reflection looked tired. I was 34 years old. I had spent 8 years building something that was about to change enterprise data analytics forever, and my family thought I was failing. The irony was almost funny, almost. It had started when I was 26, fresh out of Stanford with a master's degree in computer science. I had been recruited by Google, Facebook, and Amazon, with offers ranging from $165,000 to $195,000. Stock options, free $5,000. I turned them all down. My roommate from Stanford, Dev Sharma, had an idea. It was a way to use machine learning to predict data bottlenecks before they crash systems. It sounded technical, boring, and unmarketable, but it was also brilliant. We started DataStream AI in Dev's garage in Palo Alto. Our salary was $0, funded by $30,000 we had saved between us. Our staff consisted of 2 guys with laptops and ambition. My parents were horrified. You're walking away from Google? Dad said at Sunday dinner he was an electrical engineer at Lockheed Martin, with 41 years at the same company, a pension, stability, and the American dream. To start a business with Dev, I said. What kind of business? Dad asked. Data analytics, machine learning, and predictive algorithms for enterprise systems. Silence fell over the table. Mom spoke first. What does that mean in English? We help companies prevent their computer systems from crashing, and people pay for that, I explained. They will, I added. Dad shook his head. Marcus, 90% of startups fail in the first year. You're throwing away a 6-figure job at Google to join a statistic. Maybe, I admitted, but if it works. Mom interrupted. That's a big if. Amanda graduated a year after you. She took a job at Deloitte. She has health insurance, a retirement plan, and she's saving for a house. That's what success looks like. Amanda was sitting across from me, looking uncomfortable. Mom, I'm sure Marcus knows what he's doing, she said. Does he? Mom looked at me. Do you even have health insurance? Not yet, I said. What if he gets sick? What if this startup thing doesn't work? Mom pressed. Then I'll get a job, I said. Companies are always hiring engineers. But that wasn't good enough. Nothing was ever good enough except the path they had chosen for Amanda, the safe path, the stable path. I left dinner early that night and started leaving all dinners early. Year 1 was brutal. Dev and I lived on ramen and hope. We built our first prototype in 4 months. It was a system that could analyze data flow patterns and predict system failures up to 6 hours in advance. We tested it on small companies, and it worked. Not perfectly, but it worked. We got our first client in month 7, a mid-sized e-commerce company tired of their website crashing during sales. We charged them $5,000 a month, and they agreed. 3 months later, they renewed and doubled their contract to $10,000. They asked if we could handle their payment processing systems too. We hired our first employee, then our second. At Thanksgiving, Dad asked, "So, are you making money yet?" "We're covering expenses," I said, which was true. Revenue is $45,000, expenses are $44,000, and profit is $1,000. That's not making money, he said. That's breaking even. It's progress, I replied. Amanda got promoted, Mom said. Senior consultant, $95,000 salary, and she's closing on a condo next month. That's great, I said, and I meant it. Amanda worked hard and deserved her success. When will you buy a house? Mom asked. When I'm ready, I said. You're 27 and your sister bought at 26, Mom pointed out. I stopped going to Thanksgiving after that. Year 2 brought Series A funding, $3 million from a venture capital firm in Silicon Valley. They believed in our technology, believed in our vision, and saw what my parents couldn't. We were solving a real problem for real companies. We hired 15 more employees, moved into actual office space, and launched DataStream AI 2.0 with advanced predictive analytics that could forecast system failures up to 48 hours in advance. Our client list grew to 20 companies, then 40, then 60. Revenue hit $2.4 million that year. At Christmas, I tried to explain to my parents what we had accomplished. We raised $3 million in venture funding, I said. But that's not your money, Dad said. That's investor money. What are you making? My salary is $75,000 now. Mom frowned. Amanda makes $15,000 plus bonus, Mom said. Good for Amanda, I said. She's younger than you and making more money, Dad said. Do you see the problem? I saw the problem, but it just wasn't the one they thought it was. Year 3, year 4, year 5, we grew fully, then faster. Series B brought $12 million and 65 employees. Series C brought $35 million and 114 employees. 14 employees. Our technology was preventing an average of 47 major system failures per client per year, saving them millions in downtime and lost revenue. But I stopped talking to my parents about work. What was the point? Every conversation was the same. When are you going to get a real job? Mom would ask. This is a real job, Mom. I mean stable with benefits. Amanda is a director now, making $140,000. She's talking about buying a house in Palo Alto. That's wonderful, I replied. She's 31, you're 32, and you're still renting, Mom said. I was renting a one-bedroom apartment in the Mission District for $3,200 a month. I could have bought a house. I could have bought 3 houses, but I was pouring everything back into the company. Every dollar, every resource, every ounce of energy went into the company because we were building something that mattered. Companies using DataStream AI reported 89% fewer critical system failures, a 94% reduction in unplanned downtime, and $2.7 million in average annual savings. But my parents didn't want to hear statistics. They wanted to hear that I had a 401k match and a corner office at an established company, so I stopped telling them anything. Year 6 brought the breakthrough. Amazon approached us. They wanted to integrate our technology into AWS, all of AWS, every server, every system, every client. The contract was worth $47 million over 3 years. We hired 73 more employees, moved into new offices downtown on the 19th floor with views of the bay, and raised Series D funding of $120 million. Our valuation was $890 million. I was worth approximately $312 million on paper between my founder's equity invested stock at 33 years old, but I didn't tell my parents. What would I say? Remember that waste of time you've been complaining about for 6 years? It's worth $890 million now. They wouldn't believe me, or worse, they would believe me and suddenly everything would change. The years of disappointment and disapproval would transform into pride, not because I had stayed true to my vision, but because I had finally achieved something they could understand. Money. So I stayed quiet. Amanda called me in October. Hey, are you coming to Mom's birthday dinner? She asked. I don't know, I said. Marcus, you haven't been to a family thing in 2 years. I've been busy. That's what you always say. What are you so busy with? Work. That startup is still going? She asked it like it was a car on fumes, a dying patient on life support. Yeah, I said, still going. Mom thinks you're avoiding us. I am avoiding you. Silence. Then why? Amanda asked. Because I'm tired, Amanda. I'm tired of defending my choices, tired of the concerned looks, tired of being compared to you like I'm failing some test I didn't sign up for. We just want you to be happy, she said. I am happy, I said. I'm building something incredible, something that matters, but none of you can see it because it doesn't fit your definition of success. That's not fair, she argued, isn't it? When's the last time anyone asked me about my company, really asked? Not when are you going to get a stable job, but tell me what you're working on. When? She didn't answer. That's what I thought, I said. I didn't go to the birthday dinner. Years 7 and 8 blurred together as we expanded internationally with offices in London, Berlin, and Singapore. Our client list included 47 Fortune 500 companies, and revenue hit $180 million annually. We were approached by acquisition suitors. Microsoft offered $1.2 billion, but we turned them down. This wasn't about an exit. This was about building something that lasted. I bought a house in Pacific Heights with 4 bedrooms and a view of the Golden Gate Bridge, paying cash for $4.7 million. I didn't tell my parents. What I did tell them in the rare phone calls that happened every few months was, "I'm fine. Work is good. Yes, I'm still at the startup. Amanda got married. I went to the wedding, stayed for 2 hours and left before dinner. At the reception, an aunt cornered me. 'Your mother is so worried about you,' she said. 'I'm okay,' I said, 'but you're not married. You don't own a home. You're still working at that computer thing.' I did own a home, a $4.7 million home, but I just didn't mention it. 'The computer thing is going well,' I said. 'Well enough to settle down?' she pressed. 'Your sister has stability, a husband, a future. What do you have?' I had 189 employees who depended on me. I had technology that was revolutionizing enterprise data management. I had a company worth nearly $900 million, but I simply said, 'I have a job I believe in.' She looked at me with pity, and I left early. The invitation arrived in January for the Bay Area Business Excellence Awards, an annual gala honoring outstanding companies and entrepreneurs in the region. It was a black tie event with 400 guests, dinner, and a ceremony. My assistant forwarded it to me. 'You're nominated for Entrepreneur of the Year. The ceremony is February 14th, she said. 'Who else is nominated?' I asked. 4 others, the CEO of a biotech startup, the founder of a clean energy company, and 2 others in fintech. 'Do we know who's winning?' 'It's confidential until the event,' she replied, smiling, 'but I have a good feeling.' So did I. We had an exceptional year with the AWS contract, international expansion, and revenue numbers that made 5th CS drool. But winning wasn't the point. I had stopped caring about external validation years ago. My work spoke for itself, so it would just be nice to be recognized. 'Confirm attendance,' I said. +1, I'll bring Dev." She nodded and left. I stared at the invitation. The venue was the Fairmont Hotel Grand Ballroom, catered by... I looked at the fine print. Elite Events Catering, my mother's company. My mother had started her catering business 12 years ago. She started with small events at first, like birthday parties and anniversary dinners, gradually building to corporate events, weddings, and conferences. She was good at it, professional and reliable. Her company employed 15 people, with revenue around $800,000 annually, which was decent for a small catering operation. She had never catered an event I attended. Our worlds didn't overlap. I went to tech conferences and investor meetings while she worked society weddings and corporate dinners. But the Business Excellence Awards was big enough to need professional catering, and apparently, they had hired Elite Events. I thought about calling her to warn her, but what would I say? "Hi, Mom. I'm nominated for Entrepreneur of the Year at an event you're catering. Remember that startup you've been calling a waste of time for 8 years? Turns out it's worth $890 million. Surprise! No, it was better to let the night speak for itself. February 14th arrived cold and clear. I put on my tuxedo, a Tom Ford, perfectly tailored, the kind of tux that whispered money without shouting it. Dev picked me up in an Uber. He was wearing a tux too, and we looked like we belonged in a Bond film. "Nervous?" he asked. "Should I be?" "Your mom's working the event," he reminded me. "I know. Are you going to tell her beforehand?" "No," I said. He nodded. "Bold choice." "It's not bold," I explained. "It's just that I'm done explaining myself. If I win, she'll see. If I don't win, nothing changes. And if you win, then maybe she'll finally understand." We arrived at the Fairmont at 6:30 p.m. The grand ballroom was spectacular, with crystal chandeliers and round tables with white linens. Each table seated 10, with name cards at every place setting. I found my table, table 7, front section, a good sign. Dev and I sat down. The other seats filled quickly with a biotech CEO, a venture capitalist, a journalist from TechCrunch, a professor from Berkeley, and an investor I had met at a conference 3 years ago. They all knew who I was. "Marcus Chin, Data Stream AI, right?" one said. "Read about your AWS contract. Incredible work. You're going to win tonight." "I'd bet money on it," another added. I smiled, shook hands, and made small talk. At 6:50, I saw her. My mother was wearing the black and white uniform of Elite Events Catering. With her hair pulled back, she looked professional and efficient. She was directing her staff near the kitchen entrance, pointing to tables and checking clipboards. She hadn't seen me yet. I watched her move through the room. She approached table 12 and started setting down appetizer plates, smoked salmon, arugula, and lemon wedges. Table 12 was 3 tables away from mine, close enough that I could see her clearly, but far enough that she hadn't noticed me. The lights dimmed slightly and the MC took the stage. "Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Bay Area Business Excellence Awards," he said. "We have an exciting evening ahead. Dinner will be served shortly, followed by our awards ceremony. We're honoring some of the region's most innovative companies and leaders tonight." Applause rippled through the room. The first course was served. I ate mechanically, salmon, salad, bread. My mother moved from table to table, professional and invisible. That was the art of good catering, being present without being noticed. At 7:45, dinner plates were cleared, and dessert arrived, chocolate mousse with a raspberry garnish. At 8 o'clock, the awards began. "Our first award tonight is for innovation in biotechnology," the MC announced. A woman from table 31 won. She gave a speech, thanked her team, and sat down. "Our next award is for sustainable business practices, the Clean Energy CO." There was another speech and more applause. My mother was near table 12, refilling water glasses. "And now," the MC said, "we come to our most prestigious honor, the Bay Area Entrepreneur of the Year Award. This award recognizes an individual who has demonstrated exceptional vision, leadership, and impact in building a business that not only achieves financial success, but also drives innovation and creates meaningful change." My heart was pounding. This year's nominees represent the best of Bay Area entrepreneurship. From biotech to fintech to artificial intelligence, these leaders are shaping the future of their industries. He listed the 5 nominees, and my name was fourth. Marcus Chin, founder and CEO of DataStream AI, a revolutionary data analytics company that has transformed how enterprises manage and predict system performance. There was polite applause, though my table clapped enthusiastically. I looked at table 12. My mother was pouring water for a woman in a red dress. She hadn't heard my name, or if she had, she didn't connect it to her son. "And the winner is," the MC opened an envelope and paused dramatically, "Marcus Chin, DataStream AI." The room erupted in applause. I stood, smoothed my jacket, and started walking toward the stage. As I passed table 12, I saw her. My mother, holding a water pitcher, was staring at the stage where the MC was reading my name again. Then she looked down and saw me walking past her table. Our eyes met. Her face went completely white, her mouth opened, and the water pitcher tilted in her hand. Then she looked back at the stage where my photo had appeared on the massive screen behind the podium. It read, "Marcus Chin, CEO and founder, DataStream AI, company valuation $890 million. The pitcher slipped from her hand, fell in slow motion, hit the floor, and shattered. Water and glass exploded across the carpet. The woman in the red dress jumped up, her dress soaked. Other guests turned to look. My mother stood frozen, staring at the broken glass at her feet. I kept walking up the stairs onto the stage. The MC shook my hand and gave me the award, a crystal sculpture that was heavy and elegant. "Congratulations, Marcus. Would you like to say a few words?" he asked. I took the microphone and looked out at 400 faces, but focused on one face in particular. My mother was still standing by table 12 while her colleagues were cleaning up the broken glass around her. She wasn't moving. I began speaking. "Thank you. 8 years ago, I started DataStream AI with my co-founder Dev Sharma in a garage in Palo Alto. We had $30,000 in savings, no salary, no health insurance, and an idea that most people thought was crazy." There was light laughter from the audience. "We were told to get real jobs, stable jobs, jobs with benefits, 401k matching, and predictable futures. And for a long time, I wondered if they were right, if we were wasting our time, if stability was the smarter choice." I paused. "But we believed in what we were building," I said. "We believed that data doesn't have to be reactive, that companies shouldn't wait for systems to crash before fixing them. That prediction is better than response." I looked at my mother. She was crying. "Today, DataStream AI serves 47 Fortune 500 companies. We've prevented over 8,000 critical system failures. We've saved our clients an estimated $340 million in downtime costs. We employ 189 people across 4 countries, and we're just getting started." Applause broke out. "This award isn't just mine," I continued. "It belongs to every person who believed in this vision when it was just 2 guys in a garage. To every employee who took a chance on a startup when they could have chosen safety. To every client who trusted us with their systems. To my CO founder Dev, who's been with me since day one." I held up the award. And to everyone who ever doubted us, thank you. You made us work harder." The room stood for a standing ovation. I walked off stage, back to my table, and set the award down. Dev hugged me. "That was perfect," he said. The other guests at my table congratulated me, shook my hand, and asked for business cards. I looked toward table 12, but my mother was gone. I found her in the kitchen corridor 20 minutes later. She was sitting on a metal folding chair, still crying. One of her employees stood nearby, looking concerned. "Mrs. Chin, are you okay?" the employee asked. "I'm fine," she said. "Just give me a minute." The employee saw me approaching. "Sir, this area is for catering staff," he warned. "It's okay," I said. "She's my mother." The employee's eyes widened. She looked at my mother, then at me, then quickly walked away. I sat on the folding chair next to her. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. Finally, she whispered, $890 million? Yes. 8 years? Yes. And you never told us? No. She turned to look at me. Her makeup was running, and she looked older than I remembered. She looked tired. "Why?" she asked. "Why didn't you tell us?" I took a breath. "Because it wouldn't have mattered," I explained. "Not at first. When we were in the garage with $30,000, if I told you we were going to build $1 billion company, you wouldn't have believed me. You would have thought I was delusional. When we raised our first $3 million, you would have said it was investor money, not real money. When we hit $10 million in revenue, you would have said we weren't profitable yet. There was always going to be a reason it wasn't good enough, so I stopped trying to prove myself to you." "That's not fair," she said. "Isn't it, Mom?" I asked. "You spent 8 years telling me to get a real job. 8 years comparing me to Amanda. 8 years treating my company like a hobby I needed to outgrow because you didn't understand." "You didn't try to understand," I said quietly. "That's the difference. You never asked what we were building. You never asked to see the office. You never asked about our clients or our technology or why I believed in it so much. You just decided it was a waste of time and spent 8 years waiting for me to admit you were right." She was crying harder now. "We were worried about you," she said. "I know," I replied. "But your worry looked like judgment. Your concern looked like disappointment. And after a while, I just stopped coming around because it hurt less than constantly feeling like I was failing you." "You were never failing us," she whispered. "That's not how it felt," I said. We sat in silence. In the ballroom, the ceremony continued with another award and more applause. "I'm sorry," she finally said. "I'm so sorry, Marcuses. We were wrong about everything. About the startup, about your choices, about—" She gestured toward the ballroom. "All of this. You built something incredible, and we couldn't see it." "You couldn't see it because you weren't looking," I said. "What can I do?" she asked. "How do I fix this?" I thought about that, about the 8 years of disappointment, the missed dinners, the phone calls I had stopped answering, the distance that had grown between us. "You can start by actually asking about my life," I said. Not comparing it to Amanda's, not worrying about stability, just asking, what am I working on? What are my goals? What makes me excited about the future? You can start by being curious about who I actually am instead of disappointed about who I'm not. She nodded. "I can do that." "And you can stop thinking there's only one path to success," I continued. "Amanda's path is valid and mine is too. They're different, but that doesn't make either one wrong." "You're right," she agreed, wiping her eyes. "Will you come to dinner next Sunday? Can we start over?" I hesitated. 8 years of hurt didn't dissolve in one conversation, but she was my mother and she was trying. "Okay," I said. "Sunday." She hugged me tight, the kind of hug I hadn't gotten in years. When she pulled back, she said, "I'm proud of you." I should have said that 8 years ago. I'm saying it now. I'm so incredibly proud of you. "Thank you," I said. "Can I?" She hesitated. "Can I see your office sometime, your company? I want to understand what you built." "I'd like that," I said. Sunday dinner was awkward. I arrived at 5:00 p.m. Mom, Dad, and Amanda were already there. Amanda hugged me at the door. "Congratulations on the award. I saw the video online. Your speech was amazing," she said. "Thanks," I replied. Dad shook my hand, formal and uncomfortable. "We need to talk," he said. We sat in the living room, the same living room where 8 years ago they had told me I was making a mistake. Dad spoke first. "Your mother told me what happened at the gala, about data stream AI, about the valuation." He paused. "I looked up your company and read some articles. You've been featured in Forbes, TechCrunch, and the Wall Street Journal a few times," he said. "Why didn't you tell us?" It was the same question Mom had asked, but with a different tone. Not hurt, but confused. "Because you weren't listening," I said simply. "And by the time you might have listened, I didn't feel like sharing anymore. That's fair, he said quietly. We weren't listening. We had an idea of what your life should look like, and when it didn't match that idea, we assumed you were struggling. We were wrong. Yes, I said, you were. Amanda spoke up. For what it's worth, I never thought you were failing. I just didn't know how to stand up to them when they were so worried about you. I looked at my sister. She had always been caught in the middle, the golden child who never asked for the comparison. I know, I said. I don't blame you. Mom brought out dinner, pot roast and mashed potatoes, the meal she had made every Sunday for 20 years. We ate mostly in silence. Then Dad said, "Tell us about DataStream. Really, tell us. What does your company do?" So, I did. I told them about predictive analytics, about machine learning algorithms that could see patterns humans missed, about the AWS contract, the international expansion, and the lives we had indirectly saved by preventing critical system failures in hospitals, power grids, and financial systems. I told them about our team, the brilliant engineers from MIT, Stanford, and Berkeley. I talked about the sales team that had signed 47 Fortune 500 contracts, and the customer success managers who worked around the clock to make sure our technology delivered. I told them about the future, the product launches planned for next year, the industries we were expanding into, and the potential first PO in 18 months. They listened, actually listened. When I finished, Dad said, "That's incredible, son. I wish we'd known. I wish you'd asked." I said, "We're asking now." Mom said, "Better late than never." I smiled, a small smile, but real. "Yeah," I said, "better late than never." 6 months later, I invited them to the office. All three of them, Mom, Dad, and Amanda. They arrived at 10 o'clock a.m. on a Tuesday. I met them in the lobby. 19th floor, I said as we entered the elevator. The doors opened to the DataStream AI reception area. It had glass walls, modern furniture, and our logo etched in brushed steel. "Welcome to DataStream," the receptionist said. "Mr. Chin, your guests are here." "Thanks, Maria," I said. I gave them the tour, the open workspace, where 127 engineers wrote code. We saw the conference rooms named after computer science pioneers like Turing, Lovelace, and Hopper. I showed them the kitchen with free food and coffee, the game room, and the meditation space. We stopped at my office, a corner office with a view of the bay. "This is where you work?" Mom asked. "Most days," I said, "when I'm not in meetings." Dad walked to the window and looked out at San Francisco. "It's beautiful," he remarked. "It is," I agreed. I showed them the war room where we monitored client systems in real time. There were screens everywhere with engineers watching data streams from 200 companies across 6 continents. Every one of those screens represents a company trusting us with their critical systems, I explained. If we fail, they fail. That's the responsibility we carry. Dad stared at the screens. "This is remarkable, Marcus." "Thank you," I said. We ended the tour in the conference room where I had held hundreds of meetings with clients, investors, and partners. "Any questions?" I asked. Amanda raised her hand. "Are you happy?" Of all the questions I had expected, that wasn't one of them. "Yeah," I said, "I am. This work matters to me. These people matter to me. Every day we're solving problems that make the world work a little better," I continued. "That's worth more than any salary or title." "That's all we ever wanted for you," Mom said. "To be happy. We just got confused about what that looked like." "I know," I said. Dad stood, walked over to me, and extended his hand. I shook it. "I'm sorry," he said, "for doubting you, for not believing in this. You proved us wrong in the best possible way." "I wasn't trying to prove you wrong," I said. "I was trying to prove myself right." "You did," he said. "You absolutely did." 6 months later, DataStream AI went public on IPO day at NASDAQ. The opening price was $48 per share. The closing price was $71, with a market cap of $4.2 billion. My family flew to New York for the ceremony. I gave them 50 P badges, and they stood with me on the trading floor. When I rang the opening bell, they cheered louder than anyone. Afterward, a journalist approached. "Mr. Chin, what does this moment mean to you?" I looked at my family, at my parents who had spent 8 years worrying I was wasting my life, and at my sister who had been caught between supporting me and supporting them. "It means everything I believed in was real," I said. "It means the risk was worth it. It means trusting yourself when no one else does can lead to something extraordinary." "Any advice for aspiring entrepreneurs?" the journalist asked. I thought about the garage, the ramen, the doubt, and the years of building something while everyone told me to stop. "Build what matters to you," I said, "not what looks safe to other people, not what fits someone else's definition of success. Build what you believe in. And if people doubt, you let them. Their doubt doesn't define your reality." The interview ended and we went to dinner at an expensive celebratory restaurant in Manhattan. Dad raised his glass. "To Marcus, whom knew what he was doing all along, even when we couldn't see it. To Marcus, everyone echoed. We clinked glasses. Mom reached over and squeezed my hand. I'm so proud of you, she said. I know, Mom. No, she said, I'm proud of who you are, not just what you built. You stayed true to yourself even when it was hard. Even when we made it harder. That takes courage. Thank you, I said quietly. Amanda smiled. For the record, I always knew you'd do something amazing, Amanda said. I just didn't know it would be this amazing. I laughed. Neither did I. We ate, we talked, and we celebrated. And for the first time in 8 years, I felt like my family finally saw me. They saw me not as a failure who needed saving, not as a cautionary tale about risk and instability, but as someone who had built something real, something lasting, something that mattered. 8 years of doubt, 8 years of proving myself, and it was worth every single day.